Today I'm doing a cold read on an article about one of my favorite movies of all time, The Matrix, i.e. The Matrix trilogy. I love all three films, and I see them as three acts of a singular story. That being stated, let's get into it. The title of this article is from Screen Rant, The Matrix. There's one thing that still doesn't make sense about the iconic movie 26 years later. This was published 5 days ago, and again, cold read, so I have no idea what the article's about. I just wanted to share it with you. The Wachowskis' iconic science fiction movie, The Matrix, is still one of the most influential movies in the genre, but there's one element that doesn't make sense 26 years after its release. The classic dystopian action thriller is packed with mind-bending philosophical concepts, exhilarating fight scenes, and stunning imagery that holds up nearly 3 decades later. The movie franchise crosses 4 films, but nothing has ever come close to the original in terms of accolades and critical reception. The iconic green lines and the visual aesthetic were revolutionary at the time and continue to be referenced in modern filmmaking. One of the foundational elements of the movie is the violence that results from each digital excursion into the Matrix. Whether it's Neo's discovery of bullet time or the famous lobby scene, the movie is loaded with martial arts and exciting shootouts, which makes The Matrix an exceptional action movie in addition to the sci-fi narrative. However, that violence isn't necessarily essential to the story at the center of the movie, or at least not to the degree that it pervades each action set piece. It calls into question how the movie was marketed, and one element in particular that doesn't quite add up. The Matrix being rated R still doesn't make sense. There's no nudity, excessive drug or alcohol use, or even a use of the F word. The Matrix earned an R rating upon its release, mostly due to the graphic violence and language. While the violence certainly adds up over the course of the movie's runtime, as does the PG-13 level cursing, it seems odd that it would be enough to cross the threshold for an R rating. There is no sex nor nudity in the movie, and while the characters swear consistently, there isn't even an F-bomb. Even one use of the F word is typically allowed in PG-13 movies, so the fact that The Matrix doesn't have one in its script is noteworthy. Some of the more disturbing sci-fi elements likely push the movie towards an R rating as well, such as the legitimately terrifying scene in which Neo's mouth closes up entirely and a robotic tracking bug is placed in his stomach. Even still, it seems as though an argument can still be made to the rated PG-13 version of The Matrix, as there isn't much that could truly be described as graphic, which is typically a precursor for the R rating. There is plenty of gun and martial arts violence, some of it bloody, but is typical in the context of an action movie. So The Matrix that could have been easily a PG-13 movie, the movie would lose nothing with toned down violence and language, according to this author. It's surprising that the Wachowskis kept the minor elements that made The Matrix an R-rated movie, when it seems it would have been fairly easy to drop it down to a PG-13 rating. A PG-13 rating would have opened The Matrix up for a larger audience to see it in theaters, which could have pushed its impressive box office total even higher. The elements that earned the R rating could have been changed without losing anything crucial to the story that was being told, specifically when it comes to the language and gun violence. To be clear, scenes like Neo and Trinity's assault on the tower and Morpheus's helicopter-assisted escape from the agents are foundational to the movie as audiences remember it. However, changing the script a bit to avoid curse words and lowering the body count or the bloodiness of the gun-heaviest scenes might have been enough to get away from the R rating. There isn't much that any sci-fi or action movie fan would change about The Matrix, but it's still baffling that it earned such a serious rating when it could have easily been avoided. But it should have never been avoided. In my opinion, compromising the movie even one iota just to get it into PG-13 territory would absolutely be ridiculous. This is a bad argument and really a almost Karen argument. Lightening the violence, eliminating some of the blood, then it's not The Matrix. And of course, the argument would be, well, you wouldn't know this version of The Matrix if they have toned it down for a PG-13. Right, but an R rating isn't just about violence in words. It's also about ideas, and ideas that are too philosophical or conceptual or esoteric or just intrinsic to the idea of what it is to be human is something that cannot be understood by a PG-13 audience. And The Matrix delivers that in spades. As a matter of fact, so much so that the second and third entries, Reloaded and Revolutions, were so far steeped in philosophical ideas that critics came out against them and lambasted the movies, even though the movies got it much undeserved. Whereas the Wachowski brothers actually gave the movies they wanted to give in the second and third without it being so Manichaean and so black and white as the first movie was. So that's just my opinion. Talk to you soon. See you in the next one.